Hello and welcome to this special Wednesday edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. I'm your host, Chris Greene, Director of Network Expansion, and we appreciate your time as always. We moved our program to Wednesday this week to accommodate the Avoya Travel Conference, which is also going on for those in the Avoya Travel Network. And speaking of the Avoya Travel Conference, we have breaking news on the 2022 version of the Avoya Travel Conference during our Eye on the Industry feature, as well as news about a cluster of COVID cases and Norwegian Cruise Line's response, Celebrity Cruises walking back their new policy for vaccines and guests 5 to 11 years of age, Silversea adding the option to be less inclusive, and we'll have all of those stories coming up here in just a few moments. We have a wonderful Meet the Industry guest today, and it's not your garden variety normal member of the travel industry. No. Today, we tackle what for some is the uncomfortable world of legalities and being a business owner with our good friend, Ken Richie, partner with the law firm of Holland Knight. Ken is a frequent speaker at Avoya Travel events and is part of the Avoya Travel extended family. And he was kind enough to give us a few moments for this important discussion. And I look forward to this conversation. And I truly think it's going to be one of the most important and valuable sessions that we presented here during On Deck with Avoya. We'll wrap up today's show with information for both our new to the travel industry viewers, because it really is a great time to invest in yourself and be part of this anticipated travel boom. And of course, our experienced travel professionals who already know and are excited about the future of leisure travel and want a more secure, growth-focused travel host, which Avoya Travel 100% is. All of this and more on today's On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. So let's kick off this week's show with some industry insights, mostly from the cruise world today, and our Eye on the Industry feature. Norwegian Cruise Lines has tightened up their COVID-19 protocols after a small outbreak on the NCL breakaway during the November 28th sailing. This occurred during a round-trip sailing from New Orleans. The ship identified a handful of COVID-19 asymptomatic cases amongst guests and crew. Now, one of those cases, a new crew member from South Africa, who was in isolation during the whole sailing, was suspected of being the new Omicron variant. NCL said in a statement, in an abundance of caution and in compliance with CDC requirements, it offered all guests on the next sailing, which departed December 5th, the opportunity to cancel without penalty. Those who opted to sail must wear masks while indoors, except while actively eating or drinking, and will be tested twice during the cruise. Now, these new protocols only apply to the NCL breakaway, and Norwegian Cruise Line already requires all guests and crew to be fully vaccinated in order to sail. And while the media had a heyday with this news, the reality and the media's hype once again kind of seem to be miles apart. And we're going to continue to follow this story as the breakaway is currently sailing round trip from New Orleans with a new crop of passengers. Following up on a story we reported last week during On Deck with Avoya regarding Celebrity Cruises and their updated policy for vaccination and guests 5 to 11 years old. After becoming the second major cruise line to alter their policy back on November 30th, that was behind Disney, Celebrity has walked back that policy and put its implementation on indefinite hold. In a release statement from this past Monday, Celebrity Cruises said, our recent announcement regarding a change in the minimum vaccination age required to cruise has been placed on hold until further notice. Celebrity Cruises will continue to put in place health and safety protocols that take into consideration the latest CDC guidance. Celebrity Cruises' sister brand, Royal Caribbean International, had already taken a wait-and-see approach to vaccinations and those guests 5 to 11, while some brands like NCL and Princess Cruises have went in the other direction, already only allowing guests 5 and over to sail if they're fully vaccinated. As with everything COVID-19 related, it's a very fluid situation, and one, of course, will continue to follow. Silversea Cruises in the news this week for adding a new fare class that takes away some inclusions, calling it the port-to-port all-inclusive lower fares. They're now available on selected itineraries and departure dates. And while it will still include many of the features Silversea is known for, including selected shore excursions and onboard amenities that come with all Silversea cruises, it won't include Silversea's door-to-door all-inclusive prices, such as international air, airport, hotel, and ship transfers, new private executive transfers from home, the pre and post cruise hotel nights or hotel day rooms, and luggage handling. Now, Silversea said this is geared towards a client that wants to handle many of those aspects with his or her travel advisor. And the savings to the guest is reported at near 25%. Barbara Muckerman, Chief Commercial Officer, said the port-to-port fares gives our travel advisor partners greater ability to create the perfect travel experience for their clients, whether those clients are seasoned luxury travelers or new to Silversea, and thus increase their sales during wave season. I'm all in favor of more options. It's normally a good thing, and I hope this helps our Silversea experts in generating just that, more sales for their agency. And finally, breaking news about the Avoya Travel Conference for 2022. The announcement came yesterday during the opening general session of this year's Avoya Travel Conference. It came from Donda Ritzenholler, Senior Vice President of Sales, Trade Support, and Service for the Americas for Celebrity Cruises, and Ashley Hunter, Senior Vice President of Partnerships with Avoya Travel. Now, Avoya Travel will be holding a two-part conference next year, with the first part virtual and focused on education. That'll be October 18th through the 21st. And while that is exciting news on its own, it was really the second part of the announcement that had the conference crowd buzzing, as it will be an in-person event aboard the brand new Celebrity Cruises Beyond, which features famous Captain Kate McHugh at the helm. The Avoya Conference on the Beyond is scheduled for November 18th through the 13th of 2022. That's going to be out of Fort Lauderdale, and will focus on networking and building relationships. The Beyond sailing will feature ports of call on Costa Maya, Mexico, and Cozumel, Mexico, with 2 days at sea. And while the Avoya Travel events team is still finalizing all details, now is the perfect time to start the process to affiliate with the Avoya Travel Network, so you can try and register to be part of this and many other amazing events that are on the calendar for 2022 with Avoya Travel. And those events are exclusive to members of the Avoya Travel Network. We're actually going to have Tammy Richie joining us for our first episode of On Deck with Avoya in 2022 to go over some amazing events that are part of Avoya's calendar for next year. And we're really excited. These amazing events are a key part of why Avoya affiliates sell more and generate more commissions. And my team can't wait to share details with you. Well, it's time for my favorite part of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update and our weekly Q&A session. This week, we have a great, in fact, maybe one of the most important Q&A sessions we've hosted, because our guest this week, Ken Richie, partner with law firm Holland Knight, is going to discuss a vital topic, but it's one that's not normally in a lot of our wheelhouses. In fact, for some, the thought of something legal impacting their business is probably one of the things that scares them the most. And we hope that our chat with Ken today provides some clarity on these important issues. Ken is a frequent speaker at Avoya events. His presentation's always mentioned as a highlight on the feedback form. He's part of the Avoya Travel extended family. I was just mentioning Ken's wife, Tammy Richie, who is our Vice President of Network Engagement. And we're just excited to have Ken as our featured On Deck with Avoya guest this week. So let's welcome in our special Meet the Team industry guest, Ken Richie, partner with Holland Knight, to this week's On Deck with Avoya. Ken, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Chris. It's my pleasure to be with you. And I just have to say, I wish I had your voice.
Oh, thank you so much. Ken, let's start with some backstory about yourself. Where did you grow up, and was travel something that was important to you in your younger days?
You know, Chris, I grew up all over. My dad was a federal law enforcement officer, so we would move around every so often. So places like Memphis, Tennessee, and Orlando, Florida, Fairfax, Virginia, St. Louis. So we traveled, but leisure travel really wasn't part of our deal, to be honest with you, Chris. That came later in life. But I have to say, I never even got my passport until I married Tammy about 12 years ago. And now I'm on my second one. And believe me, we have traveled extensively since then.
Yeah, got to get those stamps in while you can.
Oh, yeah.
Ken, tell me a little bit about your history and being an attorney, and how working with the law has you interacting with some of the biggest players in the cruise industry today.
Well, I kind of wanted to follow my dad in being a federal law enforcement officer until I realized that was probably too short and they didn't pay enough. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go to law school. So I took the LSAT and I did pretty well and went to law school and did okay. Got out of law school and actually joined the Army for 3 years. I wanted to do that, serve the country, and was a JAG officer for 3 years. It's nothing like the TV show JAG, let me tell you.
No.
But no, it wasn't. But waking up at 5 a.m. and running on your boots. That's not exactly what you think of from TV. But so I did that for 3 years, and I learned to be a trial lawyer, and I tried a lot of cases. So after that, I went with a firm in Orlando who did construction law, at least the partner I worked with. He's one of the best construction lawyers in the country. He taught me how to be a construction lawyer, because really the only thing I'd ever done before is build a tree house. I didn't know much about construction, but he taught me well. We tried a lot of cases together, and we did well. So, after that, we moved to Orlando. I mean, we moved from Orlando to South Florida about seven years ago. And Tammy said, Ken, they have a lot of construction with cruise industry. And I said, that was an aha moment for me. I'm thinking, you know what, they did. And I thought back when I was in Orlando, I cover your ears, but I used to sue Disney a lot, used to see SeaWorld a lot, used to sue Universal a lot, representing contractors. But I thought, let's come down to Miami, maybe represent owners, the cruise lines. And that started marketing. It's been very successful. I've been blessed. And you do a good job for somebody and they tell somebody else, and that, just like in your industry, it begets more work, and that's what's happened for us. So that's a great thing.
For sure. And I mean, and great timing on your part too, right? I mean, because in the last decade, the cruise industry has just grown by leaps and bounds. And so you must have been involved in some of the projects, like when we're at the port, say in Miami, and we're seeing a new terminal go up. I mean, are those the kind of construction projects that you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. At Miami, there's 3 of them I've been involved with. The newer ones, as you can imagine, they're beautiful. It's amazing. They put a lot of investment into those terminals. I also do work for the cruise lines on private islands. That's a new thing too, Chris, within the last 10 years. I mean, they've had them, but it used to be a sandy beach and maybe a bathroom, and that was about it. Now they're being built out almost like a theme park. Some of them not, but that's something that I've been involved with. In ports, I do a lot of the port work for the cruise industry, so for certain clients. And that's, quite frankly, I represent some of these clients all over the world. Lalipa off New Zealand and Australia. I mean, it really doesn't matter. Tammy says, well, can't we go? I said, well, actually, we can do it just by doing the work. I can do it from here. We got Google Earth, and that's all good. So unfortunately, I don't get to go, I should say,
right,
to those places.
Now, on top of that work, Ken, your Avoya family, in all respects, since your wonderful wife, Tammy Richie, who we've referenced a couple times, is our Vice President of Network Engagement. And you've been a featured speaker at Avoya's conference in the past, at many of our academies at sea. Tell me a little bit about the information that you present in those formats to Avoya affiliates when you have a chance to speak with them.
Well, I have to tell you, I think the Avoya academies are quite amazing. I'm not saying that just because Tammy's involved. Well, okay, but in any event, they are amazing, and it's such a great time and such a great experience for the agents. I'm amazed with the friendships that are made on these academies that last years and transcend just the academies, because it creates camaraderie. But from what I do, of course, Tammy's side and the other Avoya people present sales issues and present working within the travel industry. I kind of look outside that, and Tammy likes to have the holistic approach to the agency, because selling is great. You can sell as much as you want and your gross can be high, but if you don't net at the end of the day because you don't know how to run your business, it's time wasted and money left on the table. So when I come, I talk to the attendees about taxes. I mean, taxes are very important, and how to maximize your keep on those taxes. Talk about some basic employment law, like independent contractor versus an employee, and how to tell the difference and what to do if you want to employ others in your agency, how to do it right so you don't get tangled up in that morass. Limiting the liability of your agency. As you know, you're dealing with other people's money and in your business. And when you deal with other people's money, there's an inherent risk. And we talk about lowering that risk for everyone involved in the equation, but especially the agent. We also talk about communication skills, and you think, well, that's silly. I mean, but communication skills can really play a way to lessen your liability, the way you talk to people, the way you respond to people. I always, and everybody who's seen one of my presentations say, I think, one of the first things I'll tell you is everything you send can be 10 feet tall on the side of a courtroom wall one day. You just never know. So you've got to be and we talk about that. And we show how to approach things. And then we also talk about having that CEO mindset. I mean, how many travel agents have come from other agencies and started their business, say, oh, I'm a business owner. Well, what does that mean? What does that entail? How do you become successful in being a travel agent in these days and times? And so that's I guess a sampling of what we talk about from my side of the presentations.
And then what is the reaction, Ken, that you receive? Because I have to imagine that sometimes people, when you're explaining this to them, you see the light bulbs go on. I mean, what's the reaction that you get from people who hear your presentations on why it's so important to protect themselves as a business owner?
Well, Chris, sometimes I just get the blank stare, right? But having said that, a lot of people say I've never really thought about that. I get it, but it's very important. I mean, it's a business. Again, you can gross as much as you want, but the real number is what you net. And that's where you want to drive your business to. So, again, so many agents have never really owned a business. They're excited about owning a business, but they don't really know how to conduct their business. Not to say all, I'm just saying some. So I think most agents are very receptive. And when you start talking about taxes, especially the first year as an agent in your taxes, that's pretty exciting because that's a good year for you. Because you're not earning much, but you have a lot of expenses, and you know what? You can take advantage of that first year and help you out in offsetting some of your other expenses that you might have. So I think overall it's a very receptive audience to those topics.
Yeah, I know from seeing the forums and the feedback after the fact that your presentation is always so highly regarded, in hindsight for being what it is. But I too am amazed that, like, in my position, that we'll talk to people, and sometimes people that have been with other host agencies and truly have been in business for themselves for 5 or 10 years. And you'll say to them, and they'll say, well, no, Chris, I'm not a business owner. I'm just with a host. And they fail to grasp that, no, you're actually both. I mean, just because you're with a host and you might be using your host agency for some of their resources or piggybacking off of their credentials, that doesn't change the fact that you are a standalone business owner in the eyes of the law and anybody that might need to use the law in that respect, right?
Well, that's for sure, Chris. And you know what? You can come to the next presentation on the CEO mindset and give that preamble, because that's a very, very good explanation of what we often see. And our goal and Avoya's goal, and at least on these academies, is to make that agent a successful agent. Because yes, it's great if you sell a lot, but if you're not netting at the end of the year, you might get discouraged, or you might not want to continue your work, and you might think, well, there's got to be something better. There's really not if you apply yourself and you understand the business techniques and apply those business techniques.
Makes total sense. All right, Ken, let me put you on the spot for a second. Maybe you could offer a piece of advice that you would offer someone that's brand new to being a business owner, that's just kind of putting together their plan for owning a travel agency, on just a couple of smart things they could do from the start to give themselves that extra protection.
Well, I'm glad you said a couple, because I couldn't limit it to one thing.
Okay.
Lawyer, I got to talk a lot, right? So first of all, I would say treat your business like a business. We've already talked about that, right? Treat your business like a business. I realize there's some hobbyists and people that don't really want to apply themselves in any business. But if you're going to run this business, treat it like a business, but protect yourself too with a corporate entity, right? An LLC or a corporation, whatever your counsel advises you to do, or your tax advisor, and get some E&O insurance, because everybody says oops sometimes. And nobody likes waking up in the middle of the night thinking about that, perhaps, oops. It's no fun. So you've got that backstop to you with that E&O insurance. Nobody wants to think about that on the front end of a business, but I promise you, before any real major business launches, they have all that stuff lined up and underwritten and done for many years in advance of actually launching the business. So, and have a coach. and have a business plan. You know, you have to have a plan to execute. If you just go out and just amble around, you may run into, like they say, a blind squirrel gets a nut every once in a while, but you're not going to be as successful as you would like to be. And you know what they say too, Tammy always says this to me, is this: professionals have coaches. And you know, all the professional athletes, what have you, have coaches. Why is that? Because they want to get better. And anybody says they're already where they want to be, I'm leery of that, because we can all get better at whatever we want to do. And, you know, I also think that well, I won't say staying in your lane. What I will say is know what you're selling very, very well. Become an expert in that area, and don't fake it till you make it. Think about it. If you tell somebody, oh, I'm an expert in this, and something goes wrong, well, you've just raised your liability level because you've proclaimed yourself to be an expert and you really weren't. So that's important. But I also want to say, I think picking a supportive host agency is incredibly important. You know, I'm a partner in a big law firm, and I cannot tell you how important it is to have all the support around me to allow me to go out and market and to practice law and to service my clients the best I can. I cannot imagine doing that as without having that support, the administrative support. It would drive me crazy. And so picking a host agency like Avoya with all the support they offer, to me, it's gold.
Yeah, no, that's really solid advice, Ken, because that's certainly one of the things that is a running theme here on Deck with Avoya is, and the term we use is engagement. You know, I mean, engage, do yourself the favor, be the best employee that as the owner of your business, you would expect that employee to be. I mean, give that full effort, make yourself as an employee, let the owner that you are be proud of the person that you are as an employee, even though you're really just one and the same person. You do have to divvy that up, and you wear so many variety of hats, and to have that right support surrounding you to be able to uplift you and do things that maybe you can't do on your own is just a vital way to be successful, whether it's travel or any other industry, I would think.
No, I think you're exactly right. And help is always welcome, right? We all need it.
And it's an uncertain world. I mean, you talked about error and omission insurance, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, because I've never been an attorney, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn that one time. But when something happens, and if somebody decides to get a lawyer involved, that lawyer is going to just basically almost like fire as many bullets in as many different directions as they can. And having that protection, even if you didn't make the mistake, is sometimes the difference in getting caught up in that and not getting caught up in that, right?
Well, it's very true. You know, life isn't, as we all know, life isn't fair. And sometimes people get sued that shouldn't get sued. But that is an MO of a plaintiff's counsel often is, okay, this person touched, this person touched, this person touched the file. So we're going to sue all these people. And quite frankly, the reason for that is they want to include as many E&O policies or any insurance policies as they can to make the pot as big as they can and make the well as deep as they can. So that is something that does happen. So having that E&O insurance and perhaps even reaching out to a lawyer just to establish a relationship on the front end, it's not a bad thing. It typically never costs you anything just to go talk to somebody for a little bit of time and establish that relationship and be able to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, what do I do?
Ken Richie, partner with Holland Knight, is our featured Meet the Industry guest today on Deck with Avoya. Ken, you have such a unique perspective, and you probably see the industry in a different way than, say, a travel advisor or a travel agency owner would. But from your perspective, how do you view the future of the cruise industry?
I have to say, I was on an investor cruise for one of the lines just recently and listened to a lot of the presentations by the bankers and the investment bankers and the CEO and CFO and some of those things on that cruise. And I walked away incredibly bullish. I was very excited. I will tell you that infrastructure is going to become, I think, going to become a big deal. I really can't tell you anything that I really know in the future, because that would be a breach of my attorney-client privilege for some of these clients. I get that. But I can talk about some things. I think you're going to see private islands becoming more and more prevalent and becoming exciting, more and more exciting. Perhaps more of them, we'll see. There's destinations that are far fetched from here, like Lalipa. It's going to be there's going to be others like that, I would think. I think the port experience is going to change over time. It's going to, because and I think you're going to see some really exciting things come about that. But think about this. When on that investor cruise, I heard some things that I hadn't really thought of. It's completely public knowledge, but only 3 to 5% of North Americans have ever cruised. That is a tiny penetration. So think about the markets you have, and think about the market that is available to you when only 3 to 5% of North Americans have cruised. So, if I could do math, I'd be a doctor, but I even know that that's about 95% of the people in the United States that have never, or North America, that have never been on a cruise ship. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit. Right now, we're going through a difficult time. It's coming out of it, and I think it's doing really well. But that's really what gets me excited, is the ability to have this untapped source to tap into. And then from my point of view, there has to be infrastructure for that, doesn't there? There has to be new ships. There has to be perhaps new ports. There has to be new experiences to draw more people in. So the first time to cruise and the experienced cruiser, there's going to be different experiences for all. And I think that's what we're going to see built out over the next 10 years or so.
You kind of referenced the fact, Ken, that you've been on a cruise recently. And just asking you personally, how would you describe the experience? Did you enjoy it? And how did it compare to, say, a cruise that you've been on pre-COVID, as far as that overall experience?
Well, I've been on a couple. Tammy and I went to Alaska on Silver Sea out of Seattle in August. Small ship, but it was only half full. Once you got on the ship, everybody was vaccinated. So you could wear a mask if you wanted, but there was no requirement. I have to say I loved it. First thing I told all my buds was, look, if you want to cruise, go now, because the experience is amazing. Now, obviously, as we get deeper into it, we're going to ramp up. We're going to ramp up occupancy on those ships, which is a good thing. But for now, I think the cruising experience is really special. It really is. And on the recent investor cruise, obviously it was a like an inaugural type cruise. It was just a couple of days. Same thing, a lot bigger ship, but same thing. I felt very comfortable, and I felt that all those around us felt comfortable. I would go again in a heartbeat. Matter of fact, we're planning one right now.
I'm sure you are. What about favorite trips, Ken? Anything that you've been a part of in the recent past that really stands out for you as extra special?
I have to say, nothing to me beats Alaska. I just love it. And living in Florida and South Florida, the temperature gradient's pretty good too, right? In the summertime, you go up and you're in Alaska in the winter, or at least what in Florida seems like the winter. It's wonderful. Plus, there's nothing like seeing the whales on a whale sightseeing excursion, or walking around a town in Alaska and stumbling upon a salmon ladder and seeing the salmon just popping up that ladder. I mean, it's things you see in movies, but you don't see in person, and there you see it in person, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list, and we were hoping to do that pre-COVID, and then of course we know what happened there. So definitely on my 2022 planning list. Hopefully I can make that happen. As a follow-up to that question, Ken, what about future travel? Anything that's planned, or anything Tammy's planning that you're super excited about?
Sometimes I never know what she's planning. I just kind of find out, which is always good. It's always good. I'm happy to go. But I will tell you, I am really excited about the trend of expedition cruising, the expedition ships. And so I'm really excited about perhaps going to the Galapagos on one of those, going to Antarctica on one of those, maybe going to Tahiti, those types of places. But some of the out of the way places that is now opened up to us regular folks. That used to be you had to work for National Geographic to go to Antarctica. Not anymore. So I'm excited about that.
Ken, one last thought before we go. Any closing thoughts or advice from you that you would offer to a prospective travel agent that was kind of eyeballing the Avoya Travel Network for a possible future affiliation?
Well, I always, whenever I talk to new contractors or new company owners, I say, look, go into this with your eyes wide open. There's going to be ups and downs. You're going to feel like a roller coaster sometime. But if you have that plan and you work towards that plan, you're going to do great. And I cannot emphasize enough the need to be with an agency that supports you and doesn't say, oh, here's your business in a box. Have fun. Hope you can pay the rent. It's something that's truly important.
Ken Richie, everyone, partner with Holland Knight, and our featured Meet the Industry guest today for On Deck with Avoya. Ken, what a fascinating conversation. Thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me on. And, I love to talk, so it was fun.
I loved it too. I thought it was a really engaging conversation and really look forward to the feedback we get about today's episode. Next week is all about education and the amazing new resources that will be offered by our mastermind program for those that'll be new to the Avoya Travel Network. We'll be bringing back one of my favorite guests, Laura Burke, Senior Manager for Avoya Mastermind. Not so much for a Meet the Team feature, because we've had the chance to feature Laura in the past, but more for an in-depth look at what's coming up new for 2022 in regards to the new mastermind resources and how they can help an agency owner to network, excel, hit all of their goals. And I wouldn't be surprised if we learned something new about Laura too. She's a very fascinating person. That'll be next Thursday, our normal day at 2:15 p.m. Eastern, 11:15 a.m. Pacific here on Deck with Avoya. Okay, for our new to travel friends, after hearing that discussion with Ken, I don't know why you wouldn't reach out and put in a request and at least start the process to find out, because the future is incredibly bright for the leisure travel agency. Avoya Travel is in a huge growth mode. We would love to have that conversation and explain to you all about our resources so you can build this new business with industry-leading resources, gain access to marketing and technology and that support that Ken was talking about being so important, our education. Be your own boss, set your own hours, enjoy a flexible lifestyle. All you have to do is reach out, and we'll, of course, have that contact information here in just a few minutes. What about for our experienced friends, those in the travel business who've been through everything in the last couple of years, but still really excited about the future? Again, Avoya Travel is in a huge growth mode. Hopefully you're in a growth mode for your business as well, and we can put together a shared success relationship like we have with all the other members in the Avoya Travel Network. Again, build your business the way you want with solutions designed to continuously fuel growth. Choose what resources fit your agency's needs, because you run your business as long as it's done with integrity and professionalism. And my team just can't wait to have this conversation. So how do you reach out and get started? Well, it's pretty simple. Reach out to us online at avoyanetwork.com. Send me an email, chris.greene@avoyatravel.com. You can call me. You can use your phone and get the QR code and get all sorts of information. We just want to engage. We want to answer your questions. We want to share our amazing history. We want to share our thoughts on the future of leisure travel and Avoya Travel and the Avoya Travel Network, and see if it's a fit. If it's a fit, we'll put something together. If not, all we did was just waste a little bit of time, but we'll have gained just a valuable insight. So please reach out, put that request in. Again, my team is standing by. They would love to have that conversation. A big thank you to Ken Richie, my special guest today. What a fascinating conversation that was. A big thank you to Marissa Smith, our producer, who does a wonderful job every single week here with On Deck with Avoya. Thank you again for participating. We'll be back next Thursday with Laura Burke as our featured guest. And until then, have a great week, everyone.